Alright, so back once again, and today we're going to be talking about the importance of being patient. And when I say patient, I don't mean losing 15 games in a row and, well, not going bananas at the next person you talk to. Not that level of patience. That level of patience is reserved for maybe a different situation. The type of patience I'm going to be talking about in this particular game is biding your time and not getting all too overeager, which tends to happen a hell of a lot in these games nowadays, and losing the game within the first 3 or 4 minutes. Now, as you'll notice, I'm playing the Oland, the Tier 8 European destroyer, and I've been having a hell of a lot of fun with this ship. Much better than the, I think it's the Japanese DD line, whatever the Torpedo line is. I've been having a lot of fun with this ship. But with most Torpedo Boats, and well, with most destroyers in general, you're going to have to play it in a bit of a passive tone. You cannot be that guy that wins the game in the first 3 minutes. It's going to be a long, drawn out battle, and you're going to have to make some pretty tough decisions that sometimes your teammates just aren't going to be all that happy about. But that's for a little bit later in the video. This time we're just going to push the left flank, and as you can see on the screen, there's a cyclone coming in 5 minutes, which isn't all that bad. I tend to rant about the cyclones quite a bit because I don't really like them or don't see the point of them in the game personally, but in a torpedo boat it's not all that bad of a thing. Again, the spotting distance gets close down to about 8 kilometers, and when you have 5.8 detection it's not all that bad, because generally when you're launching torps on this ship, if you're outside 8 to 10 kilometers anyways, you're going to give the enemy ship a decent chance to actually turn and miss them. So, Cyclone isn't going to be all that effective in stopping us doing our job, which is generally just to hit as many torpedoes as possible, and if we see any low HP ships, take them down at the same time. We do launch some speculative torps at, I think, the Yakuza and the Anchorage. Again, with the Yakuza spotting them right now, the Anchorage is going to dodge, which is a bit unfortunate, but what can you do? Now, back to the point of being patient. Now, I spotted our Benson pushing in. At least I think it was our Benson. Yeah, the Benson was pushing into the middle of the map, and I was going to support him. But as soon as that Akazuki showed up, I knew at that point there's no chance of us being able to 2v2 them with their low yang, so there's no point pushing in there. So better to turn out, bide your time, play patient, and wait for something else to happen on the map. Sadly, the Benson decided not to follow that advice, and well, now he's at the bottom of the ocean. So, getting back to patience, generally this applies to destroyers, but again, battleships, it's very much relevant. Holy moly, I can't even speak today. It's very much relevant to those types of ships also, because again, I don't know how many times both myself and teammates have pushed in battleships, gotten within 10 kilometers of 3 ships and lost the game single-handedly. You don't want to do that. Cruisers though, on the other hand, are a bit of a mixed bag, especially when you have that kind of trade-off with armor level and, you know, maneuverability. You can play cruisers a lot of different unique ways, which makes it a lot more hit or miss, shall I say? Yeah, let's go with hit or miss in terms of being patient and being aggressive. Now, with the destroyer's case, especially a torpedo boat, with gunboats, you can probably play more aggressive. If I was on a torpedo boat or a gunboat right now, I would 100% would have pushed with that Benson and taken that 2v2. Even though we probably still wouldn't have won it, we still had a decent chance. But as is, as you're playing a torpedo boat, you're just not going to have that. You're not going to have that opportunity. So instead, we push left. As you can see, the cyclone's coming in 2 minutes. So at this point, the only hope right now is our strong side's basically on the right hand flank and they're pushing. So at this point, I just want to hold off this flank as much as possible. If I can land a couple of torpedoes all need to the Turpits or the Bismarck, enough to make them turn out, perfect. That's all you want to do. You just want to hold off long enough so that the enemy team does not get a crossfire on your strong side of the map. Because if they do, well, the game ends. And as many games, so many games recently have been going like that. So it's better to play it this way than it is just to go straight forward. Now we do get a couple of hits on the Turbids, which is always appreciated. And now there's two things this does. Now obviously we get spotted by the Yakuza, which is unfortunate. But there's two things that landing the torps on the Turbids does if I wasn't detected. One, obviously you get the damage, you get the flooding, you force out the damage con, you know, all that visceral stuff you can actually spot. But it also creates a sense of, I don't want to say panic, but danger. Now the Turbids, and probably the Bismarck too, because he's seen the Torpedoes, have to be a lot more patient when they decide to push this flank. And sometimes they might not even bother pushing this flank because it's too much of a risk. Especially when you're going in, or pushing into a perma spotting, who's going to be firing torpedoes at you constantly. Now at this point I could have very easily died here if the Yakuza was a bit better and he actually pushed me pretty aggressively, but he decides not to for some reason, and well, I managed to just slightly skip away. Aiding that fact was the fact that those torpedoes actually hit and we forced the Turbids and the Bismarck back. If that hadn't happened, then the game probably would have ended for me, and well, probably for my team too. But as it is, we're playing the patient game style, or the patient playstyle. We're forcing them to come into us, and we're maximizing our damage as a result, which doesn't happen all that much. This is one of the few games in the past, I want to say, couple of weeks. Yeah, I would say a couple of weeks, where the game hasn't descended into just an absolute smashing within the first 5 minutes of the game. And it's really, when the games go like this, it's probably one of the most enjoyable experiences in the game. But they're like little sprinkles of gold in the dirt. These games are just like little sprinkles of gold that you don't actually see all that often anymore, which is a bit disappointing, but you know, hopefully they'll come back soon enough. Now the cyclone has started, which means very quickly the only real competition that I'm going to have on the map is the Loyang and the Yakuza. The Benson's obviously on the other side of the map, so we don't really have to worry about that all that much. And again, if I stick close enough to the BBs, the Massachusetts, well, both the, I don't know what that other BB is on the minimap, but Massachusetts and that other BB, then I shouldn't have all that much worries. Again, the Yakuza is in the smoke, so we're just gonna fire some speculative torps straight at it. And if we don't hit the Yakuza, maybe we'll hit the Amagi or something of that nature. Now, one thing I want to be careful of right here is that we run the risk of being pushed into a corner where we can actually get out of. We're being, I don't want to say too passive, but that kinda is the situation at the minute. And again, it's not through anyone's fault. I think it's more just of a mindset thing where you just kind of, or not even a mindset thing, probably more of a momentum based thing, you know, Newton's laws and all that stuff. Once you start moving, it's harder to stop. Once you start reversing, it's harder to start going in the opposite direction again. So with that being said, we do see the Akazuki pushing into the middle of the map. The Benson is again pulling away, our carrier is spotting him, which is always nice. One thing I do want to point out now is that the Amagi here is overextending. Again, it's tough to say because, again, the spotting is at 8 kilometers, so he's within his rights to push here. But when you're perma spotted at this point, and you're just now spotting the Bismarck, and you have no spotting on the enemy DD, and you know the enemy DD is right in that vicinity, and you're winning the game, this is just a risk you do not need to take. And it's a perfect example of being over-aggressive and over-exaggerated in your will to win the game, you know? To quote the meme, must win harder. Our Bismarck's going to do a pro gamer move here and just run right at him, so that's nothing you really can do about that. He's going to die anyways, even if you run away, so it's fine. So our Bismarck is probably going to go down. Wait, I don't remember this game all that well. He does go down, I think. He only has 2k HP. Unless a miracle happens. And we're left with a pretty tough situation, all things considered. But again, now is the situation in games where you do not want to get flustered. You don't want to overplay your hand. You don't want to go, oh well, the game's over. We're just going to rush in and, you know, end the game to get on to the next game. No, this game is still definitely winnable. Or at least we can pad our stats a little bit, which is always nice. But yeah, we're unlucky on the torpedoes. Again, trying to predict. Again, the further range out you get, and trying to predict at like 8, 9, 10 kilometers, even though I missed him at 6 kilometers here, it gets significantly more difficult, especially when he knows you're going to be sending torpedoes. But that's not all that much of a concern. It's going to take about 2 to 3 minutes for the Amagi to cap or spawn anyways, so I'm not too worried about missing those torpedoes. I'm more worried about the Yakuza. If I can get map control with the Yakuza, then we have a significant chance of winning this game again. Especially with the low yang so far out of position. And we definitely can do a hell of a lot of damage if the Yakuza decides to go down. Now at this point, I don't mind jumping into, you know, a couple hundred meters within spawning range here if I get more accurate torpedoes up with a higher chance of hitting, because all I need really, I think, on the Amagi is probably 2 torpedoes to fully take him down. And with that, the Yakuza does go down off his own accord. I think with the carrier maybe that killed him. Again, I'm not great at watching the minimap, probably why I have a win percentage below 60%. Anyways, at this point the Amagi poses not all that much of a threat. With the carrier focusing him, we land another torpedo, and now we just have to farm him down. And this is another point I want to bring up with torpedo boats, which I think might be relevant, is that I find people are very scared to use their guns in torpedo boats, especially European DVDs and especially ships like the Shimakaze, a Japanese line too, whereas the guns aren't meant to be your main battery, obviously, but they are meant to be used. They are meant to be a complement to finish off those low HP ships when you need to finish them off. You know, obviously don't use them when you first try and knife boat a Grosavoy or something. No, that's not going to work on the Shimakaze. But you should use them in order to, like, if a ship goes down to 5k HP or maybe 2k HP and you're trying to land another torpedo set and it's going to take a minute to recharge them, just shoot him. Maybe he'll set a fire and that'll burn him down. Again, I think that's a big mistake people make with torpedo boats, especially, that they're just not proactive enough and not using their full arsenal to its full potential. Again, I'm a prime example of that. So, anyways, the Bismarck and the Turbids, at this point the game's pretty much flipped on its head, and it's just a combination of our team being patient and the enemy team being incredibly aggressive. Especially with that push into our enemies, into our spawn. So now we do have the advantage. The Amagi is capping, and at this point I want to get as close as possible, but not get spotted. Because I'm aware that the Bismarck and the Turbids have hydro, and these torpedoes are just going to be more zoning torpedoes than anything else. And again, I don't want to push too aggressively here, because obviously the low yang is 100% still on the map. So that's always a concern. And it's not so bad, it's not the fact that the low yang is on the map, it's the fact that the low yang is on the map and I don't know how much HP he has. It's those two factors. So you always have to be cognizant of that also. Now at this point we are up in points. And the low yang just does pop up on the map right now, which gives me the concern, well, not the concern, the safety to push straight ahead and close that distance. Now right here I do think about opening up on the guns, but I do just see the turbids start to heal up, which again, I don't want to... This is another thing that ties into patience. You do not want to distract yourself from a winning position. Even if the Amagi goes down here, we're still in a fine spot realistically. Again, the Japanese carrier can still kill the turbids relatively easily, I think. He's only at like 7k HP or 11k HP, which is fine. Even if the Amagi gets a decent salvo off. At this point, if I decide to open up, again, I'm trying to debate whether this is a good move or not, because, well, I'm going to eat a lot of secondary fire here. luckily the Maggie does finish him off, and we get the Bismarck too, which isn't all that bad. Now at this point, the game's pretty much over. We're going to go full aggressive to the Low Yang, hopefully get the kill. I give a little congratulatory chat message. Chat. Oh my god, my ability to speak has been severely hampered. We give a little congratulatory chat message to the entire team, because it was a pretty decent game, and it was very easily a game that, if we hadn't been more patient, even though I'm not really sure how the Amagi ended up on the other side of the map, if we hadn't been more patient, we very easily would have lost this within 5 to 10 minutes. So all that's left is the carrier, which we're going to speed up and speed through right here. Because who doesn't love killing a carrier one more time? But I think the main thing to take away from this, or this game, is the fact that you need to be patient. And you need to be very much thinking every step of the way. Because, again, especially with the games, well, with the game and the way it is right now, it's very easily susceptible to thinking that, well, at 5 minutes the game ends and, well, we'll just hop into the next one and hope we're on the winning team of the, whatever, cluster, lemon train, express, garbage game happens. But with a little bit of patience and a little bit of, just stand back defensiveness, you can just completely turn a game on its head. And it's just a part of becoming a better player. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking now because, well, I can barely speak as it is, and, well, I'll see you all in the next one.